guys, welcome back to our channel. I'm Callie.
I'm Bean.
Brittany.
So this is our third installment of our book to movie reviews. So naturally, with it being the third, we're talking about Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling. So we're going to start this off with how we rated it, and the way we rate it is based on how we feel that the producers and directors did for the adaptation aspect.
So book to movie, how did they do for that?
Yes. So I think this is one of the most well done ones. I will say this is my second favorite of all of them. So I would give it, I'd say out of 10 stars, 7.5 to 8.
Since we're going out of 10, I would have to give this one probably a 7 out of 10 or so.
I'm agreeing with Callie. 7.5 to 8. Because this one's my favorite. So...
This is my favorite book. So I have to go with, ever since I first read this book back when it came out, this has been my favorite in the Harry Potter series. This is just my favorite book. I love that we're introduced to the Marauders in this book. I love the interactions between the characters. I love Buckbeak. I love the magical creatures class. Just all of this is just my favorite things in the world. So the only thing it's missing is dragons.
See, I'm taking it from the movie aspect. It was always my favorite movie growing up. With Harry Potter, it was always the one that I always gravitated to the most. It was just, I can't give you reasons why, if I'm being completely honest. It was just one that I felt like you saw more of the character development. You saw the relationships between Harry and Hermione and Ron starting to develop a little bit more. You're getting introduced to Harry's parents' backstory a little bit more too, so I was like, oh, I can actually connect with these people that we're supposed to be mourning. So it's like, that's why I kind of really gravitate towards the third one and really enjoy it.
So with each new movie, we get a new crop of characters, and we like to rate the different castings for those. So in this movie, we're introduced to Remus Lupin, Sirius Black, Peter Pettigrew, Professor Trelawney, and Aunt Marge. So, and I think for these 5, all of the castings were just spot on.
They were amazing.
They were wonderful. The other new introduction we get in this film is a new Dumbledore. So the Dumbledores from 1 and 2, he passed away. So we are introduced to Michael Gambon as Dumbledore, and I hate it.
Yeah.
I don't like him as Dumbledore at all. To me, Dumbledore was always the dorky, funny, weird, crazy old man. And he just seems like he plays it as like an angry old man, and I don't care for it.
Bitter.
Yeah.
Bitter.
Yeah. He doesn't have that goofy side of wanting socks for Christmas or something of that nature. Other than that, we all agree that Lupin and Sirius are definitely, especially because they're characters that we see much later on in the books as well, their castings were perfect. Just spot on.
Even down to, for Lupin, they added in his scars, and even down to that, it just was a perfectly well done, down to the makeup, down to his tattered clothing that he always had, and Sirius Black being all disheveled coming from Azkaban. They played that out really well, where he hasn't had a shower in who knows how long, and it looks like it. So, that is a thing.
And their mannerisms for both of those characters, too. You actually feel like they're bringing the character to life, whereas some of them in other movies or other characters, it seems forced, but with Lupin and Sirius, it's like, oh, this is perfect. This is what I needed.
Yes.
It's really nice.
They have a perfect chemistry on screen. They have that great animosity with Severus Snape that's needed. And they interact with Harry and the other kids very, very well. So overall, A+ casting on those aspects. I'd give like a C- to Dumbledore. But that's more of a discussion for book 4 and his calmness.
Yes.
Bouncing off of that, some of the major things that they changed were not major plot points, but I think the biggest thing they changed was the timeline in this one. So one of, at least my biggest issues is Harry got the firebolt in like the middle. He got it for Christmas.
Yeah.
In the book, and he actually gets it taken away from him, and that's a whole plot line that we follow.
You just ignore that.
We did, and he gets
Hermione
it later.
Gets mad at everybody, or that Harry and Ron get so mad at Hermione.
They have a huge fight. Like, I think this fight is
Last half
bigger.
the book almost.
Well, I think this fight is bigger than the one Harry and Ron have in the next one. This one's bigger.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely lasts longer.
It does. And I think that this shows, like, how their relationship is changing as they get older. They're not little kids anymore. They're teenagers, and how that comes into play. And we really missed that aspect in this. They still have that happy-go-lucky trio thing going on, opposed to actual, like, emotional conflict that we get in the book.
And it also, in the book, this argument that they have really shows how much Hermione is trying to look out for these boys.
And how they're stupid.
It really is, and it goes further, because the further you get into the books, the more she's taking care of them and making sure that they're literally just surviving, because they have the self-preservation instincts of, like, squirrels. Like, ooh, shiny, let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, no, for one, and
like,
this is
down.
And this is the first time I feel like we actually see her making sure that, like, guys, nope, that's not okay. I'm gonna stop you here.
And you miss that from the book to the movie, too, because you see how Ron and Harry are more rebellious and more wanting to do what they want to do, and Hermione is their voice of reason, being like, you guys cannot be using the map and the invisibility cloak and doing these things.
Just to go out to a candy store. Like, literally, there was an escape convict. No.
And you don't see it, like, there's so many different fights, and their relationship changes, and you don't really see it as much in the movie as you do in the book.
You do not. And it's really unfortunate, because I think that through that fight, they really grow as friends and in their relationships, to later on when Ron is fighting with Harry in the fourth book, and then when Harry gets all angsty and teenagery in book 5. I think that this is a nice foundation where they're able to grow and deal with those conflicts later on. The other biggest issue that I know we all have talked about is they don't actually explain the Marauders in the movie.
Or in any of the movies.
In any of them.
Like, if you hadn't read the books, you don't know who Prongs is.
Yeah. And it's just, I never really thought about it when I first saw the movies. I just knew because I read the books. But then someone was just like, you know what bothers me? They never tell me who the Marauders are. And I'm like, what? They tell you that in book 3.
I can actually attest to that, because when I was younger, I never actually read the books. I just watched the movies. So growing up with it, I'm like, I just kind of brushed it off, like, oh, this isn't really that big of a deal. Why is this a big deal? Like, no one actually explained it to me. Like, Brittany, this is important.
It's important.
It is. Because it is. In the books, it's a big deal.
It is.
It is a huge thing to know who the Marauders are.
It is. Especially with how it ties to Harry and Sirius in later books.
Yeah.
I think one of my biggest issues is the explanation of what happened to Harry's parents the night of their death was missing. It's very rushed in the Shrieking Shack. It's very, like, we have to tell him, but let me kill him. And it's just like, what is happening? And it was missing for me for a while, like, what actually happened. And listening to Lupin telling the story from the beginning, from when they were at Hogwarts, all the way through that night, and then Sirius chiming in with the rest of the story, you actually get to understand why there's a hatred, the beginning of why there's a hatred between the Marauders and Severus Snape.
Yeah, that you don't really get that. You just get that they hate each other. You're never given a reason why. It's just, oh, we were at school together and we hated each other. Just, okay. And?
Because James Potter was a prankster and this is what he did, and meh.
There was like a whole thing where it made sense of the hatred. But even so, like, we don't get that in the movie. It's not, and I understand that might be hard to convey in a film format, but I feel like maybe a flashback could have been used.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something other than what was used. Because, I agree. The explanation of how we got there was rushed and not the greatest of explanations.
And we're also never told how Sirius actually gets out of Azkaban.
We are not in the movies. It's not actually explained to us how he is able to escape and that whole thing, because he does explain that in the book.
I think the only other thing I had issues with was, I shouldn't say issues with that, but that I wish there was more of in the movie was Quidditch in general. Because in book 3, Quidditch is huge.
It is huge.
You see every single match.
They win, don't they?
And they
Yeah.
do.
They win.
They win the Quidditch Cup. And it's a big deal.
Yep.
In the books. They completely skip over it. Not kind of. They completely skip over it
They do.
in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
They do. There's not enough Quidditch.
They skip over Malfoy at the Quidditch game, at the Quidditch
Pretending
match,
to be a
pretending
Dementor.
to be Dementor.
Yep.
And Harry's still conjuring a perfect Patronus and scaring them. Going off of that, I think some of my favorite parts, other than the Quidditch games, I really like the Marauders map. I like the aspect that it brought in and how it brought in the fact, which you don't see in the movie, but in the book, how it brings up just how brilliant these kids really were, is that they created this map that shows you where everyone is in the castle at all times. I enjoy the Marauders map, and I really want one.
I do like the Marauders map. I think it's a really neat device that we're able to use and something that can be taken through to other books. My favorite part, I really like the night bus. I really enjoy that that's a thing in the wizarding world, that if you're stranded, just point your wand out and a bus will just show up and take you wherever you want to go.
It's terrifying.
I love it
But
so much. And it's a 3-decker purple bus. I love it. I love it
great.
so much.
I think one of my things with that too is Harry gets it by accident.
He does.
It's completely random for him. He had no idea that it existed and no idea what he was doing. It just showed up and took him where he needed to be.
They'll go anywhere and everywhere except underwater. Yeah, I just think the night bus is a great device that the wizarding world came up with.
I'm gonna take a favorite part of the movie. I think there's 2 parts. It's when Harry's in the dormitory with the boys and they're just kind of they're shown how they interact with each other, where they're taking these candies and they're transforming into these animals. And then Harry's using his wand and looking at the map, and Ron wakes up from a nightmare. And spiders want to make him tap dance, and he doesn't want to tap dance.
Tell the spiders, Ron.
And Harry's like, you just tell those spiders, Ron. He's like, yeah.
I'll tell him.
And it's just, I think it shows perfectly that Harry had friends outside of Ron and Hermione, and showing that he did have these loyalties and these friendships outside of his 2 best friends, and that's important later on in the series. And granted, it's not in the books, but at the same time, it was a nice little feature that they actually put into the movies to show, hey, remember this moment. This is going to be important in the next couple of years.
I also think that scene also makes it, gives the audience, to remember that these are kids.
Mm-hmm. These kids are 13.
They're 13!
Yeah.
So I think that that's another way, that the reason they did that is to remind the audience that they're kids and they do still do kid things while fighting evil and doing things.
Because it's cool because they do that in the movies, because in the books what they end up doing is they take these things that 13-year-olds think are really cool, and you're like, okay, like how Oliver Wood is willing to put Harry in danger so he can win the Quidditch Cup. And it's just like, no, okay, but it brings a humanity to them that's not like, they're just the golden trio. But
Yeah, I like that they included that in the movie. So I think that's all we have for this film. This is the last one of the short books, so there's not a ton to go into or hash into unless we want to get super nitpicky, which we could. We're choosing not to.
if you want us to, let us know.
So feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Right now we're posting videos every day until Christmas Eve, but typically it's every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. We will be coming back the second week of January, so I believe that's the 7th.
And if you want to receive notifications whenever we post new videos, feel free to hit the little bell icon down below.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram. Our individual and joint account will be linked below, as well as our Goodreads accounts.
And we will see you guys in our next video. Bye!